Hey folks, Quilly18 here, and welcome to Let's Play Strife. So Strife is a new MOBA from S2 Games, and what's a MOBA? A MOBA is a multiplayer online battle arena. A lot of people don't really use that word, they say Dota-like or League of Legends-like game. Or of course, Heroes of Newerth-like, because S2 Games, the people who make Strife, were also responsible for Heroes of Newerth. So let's back up a little and talk about the history of these games, because people always, assume that everything is a clone or a copy of something else. Listen, these goes way back. There was originally like a StarCraft mod, and that became another mod and became a Warcraft 3 mod, and so that's where Dota comes from. And Dota was great, and it was a fantastic game. Lots of people played it. The problem is, being a mod inside of the Warcraft 3 engine, there's only sort of so much you can do with it. And so a group of developers created the first one I can really give credit to as a standalone game, as a proper clone, I'm going to say, is Heroes of Newerth. There was a couple others sort of in there. But Heroes of Newerth was really, to a certain extent, a port almost of Dota, a copy of the map, a lot of the characters, that sort of thing, with of course different names and different lores, but in its own engines. And it really brought this MOBA genre to the kind of forefront of like, okay, now it's a proper standalone game that really works for people, and you can do cool new mechanics with it in ways that weren't possible before. Now, at the same time as Han came out, Heroes of Newerth, League of Legends was also released at about the same time. And League of Legends was also heavily influenced by Dota, but changed some of the mechanics, stripped a few mechanics out to sort of streamline things, and then added a few others in there. And then, which game is the best will forever be the point of contention. And now, of course, Valve themselves have come out with a Dota 2. And again, there's really weird sort of legal copyright things going on with all of these games. It's bizarre. But it's just to say that this genre has a large pedigree. There's a lot of history there. And so what you can do is sort of pick and choose different elements from different games, and then mix in some new mechanics and new design styles. So S2 Games, who make Strife and made Heroes of Newerth, obviously have some experience in the field. And Heroes of Newerth is a relatively like competitive, hardcore kind of feeling game. Strife, they're sort of moving a little bit away from that in a different sense. A lot of the mechanics are still there, but between the visuals and also streamlining some of the game experience, they're hoping to come up with something that's maybe a little bit more accessible. They're also trying to design a game that has a little bit less of a toxic community built into it. And we'll get into a few of the reasons why that is a little bit later. Here I'm just showing some of the sort of metagame outside of the main game mechanics. Some of them are a little bit analogous to like the League of Legends Masteries and Ruin system, except what it is, it's a pet that you can take, and different pets have different abilities that influence your character in different ways. Normally I play this on unfair here, but I decided to bring it down a notch to hard just to make sure that I didn't do it terribly bad. It is in super early closed beta right now. Super early closed beta, not really accessible. There's not a whole lot of actual human games going on right now, so I'm mostly just playing some bot games. I have played a handful of characters. Right now there's 14. I believe they're aiming for about 25 at release, and all of the heroes, all the champions will be unlocked from the start and will be permanently unlocked. This is not going to be like League of Legends where you have to buy them individually. They're going to have it is free to play. And their sort of money-making model will be selling alternate skins, alternate colors. You can also accelerate the pace of sort of boosting up your pet, for example, but none of it is supposed to be a kind of a pay-to-win sort of thing. You won't be more powerful from someone who doesn't pay for it. You'll just have a few more options. So yeah, so there's a handful of characters. There's supposed to be a little bit more versatility in these, not as strong in terms of fixed hard roles as you might see in some other MOBAs. And one of the reasons that that is the case is because of how the last hitting mechanic works. So if you're new to these sorts of things, you might not know what it is, but generally speaking, early on in the game, it involves a lot of like going to a lane and farming these sort of like these minions that belong to each team. They're not controlled by heroes, but they're there. I'm showing off a few of the different skins here. I quite like that middle one, that kind of Tron style skin for this character. She's actually quite fun. This what's her name? Minerva. Yeah, that's what it is. Kind of an assassin ganker type. Lots of fun. Anyway, what was I saying? Minions, yes. So usually you're sitting around sort of farming these minions. When they die, you get experience points and gold. Now, you normally only get gold if you get the actual killing blow on a minion. And that's always been the case in these games. You have to land the killing blow. And it's actually always kind of awkward as well when you're in a lane with an ally, a partner. You're almost fighting over those killing blows. Now, some games, Dota and League and so on and so forth, the sort of meta has called for some people to play a support role where they don't try to get any killing blows. They go in with a lane with someone who's supposed to be the late game carry. They're going to carry the team to victory in the end, and you're just there to sort of babysit them a little and also not take any of the last hit goals. Well, in this game, as long as any human player, any actual hero, gets the killing blow on a minion, all nearby players get a cut of that gold. You share that gold. So You're not competing with your other person in lane to get those last hits. And that's certainly going to get away of a lot of the sort of toxic negativity in the low-level leagues that these games often see, where people are like, oh, what are you doing taking the last hits? I want the last hits, blah, 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 blah. So that's going to get rid of that. It also ties in very nicely with their regeneration mechanic. So your heroes do regenerate some health and mana just sort of all the time to a certain small extent. Especially if you get certain items, you can get some regeneration all the time. But normally, if you're in combat, it's very, very small. But if you watch my character, you see there's a little yellow bar that occasionally pops up under the character and will fill up while he's out of combat, and then these little pluses will appear in the air around my character. That represents that I'm in out-of-combat regeneration, which dramatically increases the health and mana regeneration that I'm getting. I mean, I'm not going to fill up to full health in like 5 seconds or anything like that, but it's definitely quite nice. And so then you do get in a little bit of a thing where if you're in a lane with a partner, you sort of trade off who's getting the last hits while someone else is hanging back and regenerating. Because as soon as you enter combat in any way, that out-of-combat regeneration ends. And so it's a nice little balancing feature that I've never seen this before in a MOBA-like game. I may have missed it, but I don't think so. And I think it's very interesting. The map itself, to me, resonates a little bit more strongly with Dota or Han than League of Legends. For example, as far as I can tell, there are no minions that provide the equivalent of like a red buff or a blue buff, for example. Now, on the sort of left or northwest side of the map, you can see the minimap. There's an orange dot. That's Baldur, who is a character who's very similar, I'd say, to the sort of League of Legends dragon, and to a lesser extent, Dota and Han style ancients. He's someone who's rather tough. Usually, you're going to have to do it with multiple players to go in there, and when you kill him, everyone on your team gets gold. So he's very good that anytime he's up and you guys are in a position to kill him, you should go and do that. And the teams will often be competing over who gets the kill, because, you know, if these pops up, both teams might start to migrate over there. You might end up with a big team fight, and then the winner gets to take the Baldur. On the southeast side, there's a big red dot, and this is the equivalent of the Roshan or the Kongor or the Baron Nashor, like the really big, nasty, neutral minion that you more or less need your entire team there to clear out. Now, unlike some of the other games, it doesn't give you a buff, and it doesn't drop an item that raises you from the dead or anything like that. What it actually does is it unlocks a massive super minion for your team, and you actually get a little UI interface that comes up that lets you pick which lane this massive super minion will push down. And left unchecked, he could probably take out like a couple of towers by himself. Now, normally his presence means that all teams will converge on that lane, and you know, the enemy team will try to stop this monster, I can't remember his name right now, from pushing the lane, while the friendly team will try to defend them and push the lane that much faster. In fact, getting him once might lead you to a win. He's very, very stompy. The gameplay, very, very standard thing. You've got health, you got mana, you got 4 abilities on your QWER key. My pet that I currently have equipped, if I hit F, he gives me some mana back, which is great. When you equip items, some items have activations, and your boots, for example, you can have 1 pair of boots, and they will automatically, if you have them equipped, they'll be mapped to your D key if they have an activation. In this game, on this character, I'm playing with boots that don't have an active ability. They just have a passive ability that increases the damage. Oh, there we go. Here's a nice Baldur fight here that's shaping up. Looks like I'm going to try to take on Vex, and oh, I think he's going to get away. I don't think I can chase there. In fact, I might be dying. Anyway, so yeah, these boots I have here just give me, like, I don't know, plus 10% damage or something to that effect. But another example of the boots would be these leap boots that when you hit the D key, they just dart you forward a certain amount of space. It's like almost like a Flash from League of Legends or a Force Staff from Dota, for example. I can't remember what the other boots do. I think they've got like 6 or 7 of them in-game. And then some of the other items will also have activatable abilities, and I think they tend to be bound to like the 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of keys. There are also consumables. You've got health potions, mana potions, that sort of thing. They do come in both the heal you over time variety, or I don't know if it heals you over time or gives you an instant health boost, and another one that is actually heal over time, and it heals a lot, but if you take damage, it gets knocked off. People who have played Dota are familiar, and Dota or Han are familiar with health potions of that type. There is the equivalent of like a magic stick that builds up charges over time and then can be activated to give you health and mana. Unlike the version that you would get in Dota or Han, it doesn't get charged by enemy spells. It simply gains a charge every few seconds. And I don't know what the timing is, but it does take quite a while to fill up. So it gives you like a little bit of a potion that you can use from time to time. Here we are fighting the big bad Not Sinestro. God, I can't remember. I'm bad on names. But the big bad monster that is defending this giant ape super minion that will push one of these lanes. So, yeah, abilities, roles. So there are roles. There is a character already in the game that is, like, literally has heal spells. So there is some room for support. But because of the nature of the last hitting gold sharing, there we go, Krytos, he's pushing top. You're still going to be a regular strength character, which is pretty good. The item selection seems to be quite broad at this point. In fact, most of the in-game stuff seems to be in really, really good shape. The stuff that seems to be missing at this point in the beta, and they're still some way away from opening this beta up. They don't yet have the matchmaking, for example. They do have friends lists, at least not that I noticed. You have to sort of just create your own games, and there you go. But I'm sure there will be some of those features included in there. More of this sort of anti-toxic community stuff. If you form a party, like a group of players together with friends that kind of queue up for a match together. There will be built-in voice chat, so you can chat with each other by voice. There's also text chat, of course. Now, by default, the text chat is team only until the very, very, very end of the game. So you can't, there's not going to be any trash talking from opposing people. And as far as the voice chat goes, only people in your party of friends that queued together will be voice chatting together. However, once you get in game, you have the option of inviting other people to join the voice chat. So you sort of get to choose how much exposure you have to other players, which is pretty good. The scoreboard also doesn't have a obviously visible kill list or like kill death assist kind of chart as far as I can tell. You can tell by hovering over, but I think they're trying to maybe downplay some of that. I don't know. You do not lose gold when you die. So if you're from Dota or Han, that mechanic is gone. There's also no friendly last hitting or denying of minions, which is very popular in some MOBAs and completely done away with in others. Certainly getting rid of the friendly last hitting, the denying of minions, makes a lot of sense given the general theme that is trying to go on here, because it is very counterintuitive. Oh, here, I love this. All my bots go and run into the enemy fountain. It's like, well, we could have won. And I gotta say, the bots are pretty impressive. They're definitely miles above the bots that were present in League for a long time. I think League ones have improved, but I'm not even sure that they're as good as these bots yet. They are, of course, not quite as good as the Valve Dota 2 bots, but God, Valve. Anyway, you're going to be mostly playing against humans, so it doesn't really matter there. But I do find the teamwork is pretty good. The bots do ping when they're going for a map objective. Like one of the sort of jungle mini bosses or one of the towers. So, or even when defending, the bots will ping things, which is certainly quite handy. It's nice when you're trying to learn the different characters. There's one I really like in here. He's like, it's like a goblin in a cart being pulled by a huge monster. Oh, here we go. Malady was trying to finish off the boss here. I bet her barely just in time to finish her off, and then I noticed, hey, wait a minute, she's got no health. I bet you I can take her solo. Boom, there we go. Yeah, but that goblin is fantastic. He just sits in his cart and like throws rockets and fireworks at people. There's like a big bro guy who uses ice spells. He's a really good initiator because he can leap in. His name is Ace. He can leap into a fight, and he's got a bunch of AoEs and freezes and stuff like that. Lots of good character designs visually, decent voice acting on at least some of them. So far, the abilities do feel relatively vanilla. Like, there's nothing really weird and complex. Although, when I say that, and I realize I haven't played, there's a ranged guy who does actually have like a chain hook that he shoots forward, and then he can pull himself to it. There's someone else who can snare you and pull you to them. Maybe I've just happened to pick the more vanilla players like that. I haven't seen anyone who's got any sort of pets or anything like that. I don't think there is one right now. Whether there will be or not, we'll come to see, and how much exact control you have over those will be interesting. Overall, this game feels like it's going to be a lot of fun. I've often said that I feel that something like Dota and Han, Dota 2 and Han, are clearly the technically better games. But oftentimes I find that League of Legends is simply more fun. And it's weird because I hate the League of Legends client. It's just terrible. I mean, there's no replay support. Spectator support is barely there. There's no support for like proper clans and things, and all kinds of stuff just seems to be missing from League. But the game ends up being a lot of fun, and I can't believe that they haven't included some of those. So what I'm hopeful here, like this game here from S2 Games already has replay support built in. For example, you can download and rewatch your replays, and that's fantastic, and that's what I'm expecting we're going to see a lot of here in this client. So I think that Strife is lining up to be an exceptionally fun game that is also going to be supported in a really notable and solid way by a company that has experience. They've done it already. They've been there. So anyway, do keep an eye out on here. I'll try to maybe follow up the video when maybe it goes into open beta, or the closed beta it becomes slightly less closed. See you next time, folks.